Welcome to this week's episode of the Collaborative Approach in Education. This week's episode is called We All Know This Person. There are so many different personalities, values, attitudes, and beliefs within every service.
Yeah, it's just like there's different people and come from all walks of life and what have going on for themselves. And sometimes you have the person that always calls in sick or is always late to work. I can think of many examples that this has happened, and sometimes it happens because there's something going on that's more for that person. Other times it's just they're religiously late and their time management isn't great and then it needs to be worked on. But I've got I can think of an educator that they are always just trying their best, and they come with a lot of trauma and things that have happened in their past. And I've got another educator that's wants this person to be that her expectation of this person is very high, which is a good thing. But this person was always on time and doing the right thing and making sure that she um, was, never late. And now all of a sudden she's getting this pattern of being late. And so it starts off with one time, once a week, once a fortnight, and then it keeps going and going. And it's gotten to the stage where she's late every single day. But the person coming to me and talking about it is like, why are they always late? And I have said to them, well, have you asked them why they're late? Because what this other person doesn't know is that she has a lot going on for her and what's happening at home and that kind of thing. So I think sometimes, yes, being late all the time is, and having that person in your service needs to be they need to be spoken to. But I think that on the flip side, sometimes each person, we're just humans and we need to meet them with compassion and ask, are you okay? And
we need a little bit of more empathy
Yeah.
in these situations for sure.
And getting to know the team. Like if they're a person who was constantly, like consistently on time, previously, obviously there's something that has possibly happened there that is, there's a reason for it. So finding out, well, if the person doesn't want to let you know, obviously that's up to them. But, for management to be aware of it definitely would make a difference. And, letting the team know that, there is a reason for it.
Yeah.
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 And supporting them.
It's important for them to understand the impact it has within the whole service, because if they are late, we might not be meeting ratios. There are people that would be late for their breaks, or anything would affect the center as a whole, so they need to know the impact of it. But once you come with empathy and you can understand where they're coming from, what's happening, understand the story behind it, seeing them as humans, then it makes it a bit easier to approach the situations.
Yeah, see if there's something you can do within their day to make it easier and coming to work, a safe space and where they can share what's happening for them, because they feel wholeheartedly like you're going to support them, not judge them.
Yeah. I mean, if it's something that's going on in their lives at that point in time that may not be later on, there might be, the solution of changing their shifts to suit their time better. If it's something that right now is affecting them, but in a month's time, they'll be through that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I believe that the same would apply for the person that does it all too. There's always, that group leader that tends to do everything in the classroom, like setting up activities, doing the planning cycle, talking to the parents, setting up, cleaning up the rooms and trying to do it all. And you can see that they're really overwhelmed by all of it. But in the end, it comes to the management also to go and support that person and say, just like the conversation we were having before, when you said that you approached an educator and said, do you think you're taking too much? Do you think you need a break? Do you think there's some things that you need to say no? There are things that you need to delegate to other people.
Yeah, because often what you see with those people is when it all starts to overflow, is they become snappy,
Yes.
and it's like they're showing that like they're moody and they're flustered, and then it feels like you're treading on eggshells. And then what the educators that are noticing those things, just asking, "Are you okay? Is there something I can do to help you?" Rather than just
Turning into the
gossip.
whinger,
Yeah, and
the whinger and the
gossiping about
gossiper. Yeah.
yeah, so I think that it's really important to notice that in each other, and sometimes it can be a strength when you're trying to do it all, but a lot of the time, it's
We're all,
team.
yeah,
It's
and
a
we're only
collaborative
human.
approach.
There's only so much we can do.
And when you're doing it all and you're not delegating, people might take it personal, because that happens a lot when they do take it personal and they think maybe she's not delegating to me because she doesn't think I'm capable of.
Yeah, I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough. She doesn't like the way I do things, and
But sometimes, like, there is that perfectionist in that person where
Yes.
they're doing it all because they want it done a certain way, and the only way their team members can learn is by giving, a
Yes.
olive leaf where they're like, "Let's let you do it," and then we can come back and say, "I love what you've done here. This is what I want to," giving them feedback so that way they can grow and learn instead of you just doing it all, and then they're sort of left to do a very limited amount of stuff to do.
And it's the same approach we say for children, right? We don't sit them down and just say and start drawing amazing things and say, look how amazing I am at drawing.
Mhm.
And you guys can't do this,
Mm.
right? So it's the same concept, the same thing. So if you want people to learn how to do things and maybe under your standards, you need to let them do it
Mhm.
first. You need to let them try, and you can actually guide them and say, actually, you can do it this way. How about if you try this way, in a positive and constructive way? I feel like that's something that it does get left behind, that we do certain things for children, but in the end, we actually have to do it with each other too as adults. We have mentioned this before in other episodes, like we see children as competent and capable, but our colleagues should be seen the same way as well.
Yeah, and you may also learn something from doing
yeah.
it. Just because you feel that the way you're doing it is the best way to do it doesn't mean that that's necessarily the case. The other educator may have strengths that you don't even know, and that you may learn from them. And if you're giving them the opportunity to be creative and to contribute, then you could learn so much about them.
Yeah, and I've had an educator that at the start of the year was like, "I don't do documentation. I don't do it because I'm not confident. I'm not confident in my writing." And so I said to her, "Well, let's just start off really slow then, because you can't expect the other educator in the room to be doing it all."
Mhm.
So what we did was just start with the today note and putting up photos and writing 1 or 2 sentences. So just starting slow, she checked with other people with her grammar and her spelling and does it sound good. And now she's writing these amazing paragraphs that she's starting to grasp the language. She's been a Cert 3 her whole childcare career, and she's been in childcare and education for a really long time. So she's never gone to that diploma qualification. So she's kind of always been able to sit in that background. But I think no matter what, we always want people to continue learning, and our expectation is that this is a growing sector where we always want you to continue to grow, reflect and learn. So yeah, it was a real eye opener for her to be like, "Oh, I am capable of this. I can do it."
And there is one of those other people, isn't it? The incompetent. I think that they think that they're incompetent,
Yes.
but actually they're so much more competent than what they think. I used to get that all the time with group times. I don't do group times because I don't know how to do them. And,
without giving it a go.
Exactly. And so I would always make a point of going, okay, well, you can do this group time, or, and I'm here if you need me. But, you know, they would grow in that and become really confident. And sometimes they would run some of the best group times and the most engaging group times. But just giving them that sort of leg up and going, you know what, I know it makes you uncomfortable, but you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
I remember that when I first started, when I moved from Brazil to New Zealand, I worked in a mixed age center, and then I was told I had to run them at time with a mixed group. So I had children from like 2 years old to 5, and I had to keep them engaged for 15 minutes because that's what I thought I had to because the teachers were able to do it. So I said, oh, I have to.
Mhm.
So I remember when they told me, like, how about you do them at time on a Friday? And that was like a Tuesday or a Monday. And I was terrified. I was like, how am I going to get 40 children, with a mixed age group to be listening to me? That's going to be too much.
Mm.
But I remember the first time was a disaster. So I had the teachers coming and helping me and jumping in because they were able to, because they didn't see me as a teacher that was doing med times. And at the end, I remember I had the students doing placements asking me what songs what I was playing
Yeah.
because the kids were so engaged and it was such a beautiful learning curve
Mhm.
that I never thought it would be possible. I thought this is crazy, mixed age group. How can you get children with so many different age and different needs and interests all engaged? But it is possible. And I just learned once I was given the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like even earlier this year, that happened to me where I went into a classroom to role model the group time and the morning session. And my teaching background, I've always been with the 4 to 5 year olds, but this room is 2 to 3 year olds. So I went in with a plan and it all went to shit. So I was like, oh my goodness, like my expectations were way too high. And I openly and honestly said to the educators, what I had planned is not going
Age
to work,
appropriate.
and this is where we're going to go now. And there's, in a 2 to 3 year old room, generally speaking, you've probably got half the room that's ready to sit on a mat and listen to a story. Even it doesn't matter how animated you are, the other half
Don't
they're
want
not
to.
ready for it. And so I said, well, if this is the case and this is what's going on for you, you've got 3 educators in the room. The children that aren't interested, one educator just needs to go off with those kids, engage with something with them, and so that you've still got these other children
Who aren't missing out.
yeah, they're not missing out. But I think being the honest person
Yeah.
is, and just being upfront, transparent about where you're at with what's going on, really helps you not feel embarrassed
Mm.
and not feel like incompetent,
Mhm.
but just being like, hey, I've just noticed that this is just not working, and
Yeah.
just calling it as it is. And if you are that person that's like can't think on the spot because you haven't been in it for long, then going into asking your other educators, well, what do you think I should do now? Because I'm feeling
Yeah.
lost
Help.
and nervous, or
Yeah.
just being honest and communicating
Yeah.
the feeling.
That's how we grow.
Mhm.
So
It is.
important to do that.
And I can hand on heart say there's been many a times where things have not gone the way that I'd planned them to go, and being able to draw from that and reflect on it and change it up. And then if I wasn't able to, reaching out to somebody else and be like, oh my gosh, this did not work. And a lot of the time, you know, the other educators have been in the same situation and they can, give you advice on what they've done to change that up too.
Communication is key.
Absolutely.
With another example I can think of is like sometimes the person that isn't always actively supervising, and I think that a lot of educators, they get so involved with one child one-on-one that sometimes they don't even realize that they're either sitting with a child one-on-one or they've turned the back to the group.
Yeah.
And so again, you have these other educators running around trying to do it all, and it's like this, oh, why would this one educator help me? But they don't even realize that they're not actively supervising, and the difference between actively supervising and supervising.
Yeah.
Like, so, and making sure that you have those workplace health and safety discussions and setting your educators up for success in that space. But if somebody's noticing it, and they're coming to management instead of that person,
Being, again, the whinger rather than the
problem
problem solver.
So I think like like recently I've just learned is me putting it back on that person and being like, oh, what did you say to them when they weren't actively supervising? And when they go, oh, nothing. Like, what do you expect me to do?
They
kind of
don't,
like that's your job.
yeah, they don't feel that that's
Yeah.
their role is
Yes.
to be
Yeah.
telling them what to do.
Yeah,
They don't
so
feel
like
confident.
empowering them to be like, well, if you're noticing it, let's help this person learn and grow
Yeah.
by acknowledging it to that person, and then um, problem solving. How can we make this better? Like, where to next, kind of thing.
It can literally be as simple as saying, hey, did you realize like your back's turned and this is going on over here, and I've just had to run from the other side of the playground where I was supervising to come over here. Could you just switch your back just a little bit so that you know you're able to,
Because how often do incidents happen that
oh, all the
they're
time.
like they happen right in front of you, but unless you've got that real active supervision going on, it's hard to say what like happened in detail.
Yeah.
So,
And it's good to show them as well. There's this supervision map here. That's the best place for you to position yourself, just so you can supervise children in that way. So they are able to see on this side and that side, so then they don't feel like you're telling them off or you're whinging. You're just like, I just want to show you.
Yeah.
This is what's available here. It's just easier for you to
Yeah.
see it that way. When I first started here, I didn't know either, and then this actually helps me
Yeah.
find the right place to stand when I'm outside or when I'm supervising.
yeah, so
So it's just the way you say it. It's not what you
that's a
say.
way to approach
It is.
Like that's where like the personality traits come in,
And the love languages and things like that.
and knowing one another and how to speak to each person and what
Yes.
works for them, what doesn't work for them. Like sometimes in the moment that can be really confronting for people.
Yeah.
So sometimes saying it in a more relaxed way will work better. And I think that's sometimes the hardest part of starting a new service is that you really have to get to know everyone to be able to communicate well.
Yeah.
But making sure that management is putting that time and effort to making that communication flow really nicely, that again creating that safe space that we respect one another. It's okay to have an opinion, it's okay to not have the same opinion.
Yeah.
And that, I guess, that robust debate
Debate.
Yeah, so
yeah, absolutely.
So to conclude this topic, it is important to remember and to remind everyone that it is our duty of care to ensure children are safe, to ensure that policies and procedures are being followed, and to ensure that things are getting communicated. So if we do notice people that are just whinging, they're not solving problems, they have to be approached. And if there's someone that's not supervising properly, they have to be reminded how to supervise. And it doesn't matter what role you are, if you are a group leader, if you're an assistant, if you're an inclusion support, if you're a lunch cover, it is your duty of care to ensure these things are happening on the floor at all times. And the thing is that you need to deal with the problem right there when it's happening in a professional way, of course. You're not going to yell, you're not going to be rude, but you're going to have to approach those people and ask for support. And then if things keep happening and you can see that the solution is the problem is not being solved, then you go and talk to your management. You seek support as well, but we cannot just whinge or ignore
and expect a different outcome.
Exactly. And expect somebody else to fix the problem later. Because just like we have to do with children, like we have to guide them right there in the moment. Because if we go and talk about something that happened to them, minutes later or hours later, they're not going to ever remember it. It's the same with our team. It's more effective if you say right there, right at the moment that it happened. Again, in a professional way, you can call that person to the side and say, hey, like when that happened, I think it's better if we do it this way. Or, it's just like, again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah, if you keep doing things the same way and expecting another outcome, it's never going to happen. Like you have to look and find a way to do it differently.
And I think creating that culture within a team that you are able to approach someone if you're seeing something that's not best practice.
Yes.
If you have that culture in your team where you all feel safe to be able to do that, then there shouldn't be any feeling of confrontation or things like that either, because you should feel confident that you are approaching it in a, professional manner, and that person is getting it, in a positive way.
And I do get it that there are some people that we work with that we might feel intimidated by, or we don't feel comfortable approaching them. So do approach your management in that way, then ask for support on how you can approach that person and seeing different ways, because that's how we learn. We are in this world, to learn and grow as well. So that's the only way. Like, you can go to management, ask for support, but at least give it a try first to solve that problem instead of expecting somebody else to solve it for you. I get it. People are intimidating sometimes. Sometimes there are people that we just don't feel comfortable raising issues and I get it. But then we need to find solutions on how to deal with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Collaborative Approach in Education. And keep inspiring young minds. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with future episodes. If you have any feedback or any topics that you would like us to discuss, please let us know in the comments below.